Here's a video of me building a small little travel guitar that I've wanted to build for a while. I know there are travel guitars on the market, but I haven't seen anything this small, something that I could easily put in a small backpack and take out with me. It might be too small. It doesn't have all the frets, but I don't need all the frets to keep my fingers happy. So like putting a capo on the 12th fret, with this I have frets 12 through 22 to work with on the go. I got this piece of wood off a log of white fir that my friend donated to me. This is just a prototype, and I make a lot of mistakes throughout the process, and I'd love for people to point out mistakes I may not have noticed and give me advice on things I could do better. I don't have a tabletop planer right now, so I'm just using a hand planer and a pair of calipers to measure the height at different points to hopefully have a flat piece of wood to start out with. When doing all this work, I had a deadline in mind because I knew I was going to go on some travels with a friend of mine. And last year around the same time, that friend and I went to Argentina, and we happened to be there when they won the World Cup, which was a really exciting trip. But I remember when I was there, I wanted to play guitar. And I tried going to 2 shops, and I tried out some pretty poor Spanish to see if I could play guitars at those shops, but they weren't pretty excited to let me play since I was a tourist who wasn't going to buy any guitars. So I was really hoping I could finish this little guitar in time for my next trip to Taiwan. I needed to add this extra piece of wood to the bottom because the bridge that I ordered was a little bit larger than I expected. I'm using a mandolin truss rod, which is almost the perfect length. A little bit longer would have been nice, but I was really pleased to find a truss rod that was this close to perfect. One of my friends asked me why I don't just get a ukulele or a mandolin to practice on the go, because they're smaller, but this will be even smaller than those, and I want to practice the guitar anyway. I learned that with a single rod truss rod, they need to have a slight bend to be effective, so this truss rod is going to be curved down in the middle, so the channel needs to be deeper in the middle. This was my first time really using a chisel the way it was intended to be used, and I didn't do a very good job of it. The hole needs to be bigger anyway because the Allen wrench that I need to use to tighten the truss rod wouldn't fit in this hole. This is the piece of wood that's going to push the truss rod down in the middle, so it needs to have a slight curve on one of its sides. Here's where things really start to go downhill. The saw I'm using makes a cut that's a little bit too small for the fret wire that I use, which really caused some problems. I have this problem because I got the cheapest saw I could find, which isn't really a saw, it's just a replacement blade for a saw that I don't own. It would work well, despite being a little hard to hold, if it were the right thickness, but it's a little bit too small. I think I'm going to have to bite the bullet and get a more appropriate saw. Here's another problem I was having, perhaps because I was cheap with my twisted product again, but could also be that I don't know how to use this tool right yet. I couldn't get perfectly symmetrical frets, they all came out slightly twisted. I think that deepening that channel in the edge of the big wheel might solve my problems, because right now the spine of the fret wire is hitting the back of that channel, and it chooses one side or the other, so it doesn't stay symmetrical and it ends up coming out twisted. Very slightly, but that twist is still causing me issues. And this is the part of the video where I think any guitar builders that are watching will probably vomit. I'm sure this hammer is not the right tool for the job, and it's really doing a number on the frets. And my thinking is that it'll be alright because I'll just grind the frets down to a level surface later, but I'm sure there's a way to avoid doing that damage, like using a fret press, which I'm tempted to consider. And as you can see, the fretboard itself is lifting up in the middle, and that's because I think the fret wire is a little bit too thick for the slots that I cut out with the blade that was pretty cheap. And because of these issues, I was pretty frustrated at this point, and it may have been bad to be holding a hammer while frustrated. If you haven't barfed yet, get ready because you're about to. Yeah, it's pretty unsatisfactory work, but I'm really hoping I can still have something I can bring with me to Taiwan at this point. I wanted the body to be as compact as possible so it would take up as little space as possible inside of a backpack. It may be pretty uncomfortable to play, but it's better to have something to play with than nothing. I had to cut off the corners of the headstock, even though I liked the look of the more blocky headstock, because there was a crack in one of the corners that originated from the piece of wood as it was drying after being cut from the log. And I figured I could work around that crack, and I could, but I think it looked better as a block headstock instead of a more angled headstock, which unfortunately from the back of the instrument kind of makes it look like a penis. And my friends ended up calling this little guitar the Little Blue Dick.
Take your time. I gotta just pour a glass of wine.
Okay. Or maybe it was a big blue dick. It's a little guitar, but it would be big for a dick. Anyway, blue was a mistake as well. I was really rushing at this point because my trip to Taiwan was coming up, so I just went with a color and I tried to enjoy it, but I think it's a little bit too blue. At this point, it was the night before I was leaving for Taiwan, and I was putting the hardware in, which was a very exciting moment. I was pretty excited about the idea of using these zither pins as tuning pegs because it would really cut down on the size of the instrument. These are used in harps and some other stringed instruments, so I thought they would be pretty nice. I'll spoil what I found out about them. I think one of the reasons I haven't seen them used on guitars before is that they don't work well with the string that you want to bend. I think if I wanted to still make a small headstock, I could use normal guitar tuning pegs, but I could cut off the pegs or unscrew them free, and I could grind one side down and use a tool like I would with these zither pins to tune those tuning pegs. Here I am, down to the last step of putting the strings on. Pretty excited to be able to take this little thing to Taiwan with me and be able to practice. Holy shit, that's hilarious. There, I realized it. I really made a blunder I didn't foresee. The strings are way too high off the fretboard. They're like a centimeter up because the bridge is pretty tall and I didn't anticipate how tall it would be. So, no small guitar for Taiwan this time. Here it is all strung up after I returned from Taiwan. I realized maybe I could have brought it to Taiwan and I could have practiced my slide guitar playing, which definitely needs work. But I really want to get better at guitar, so I'm going to make this thing more of a guitar than a slide guitar. Now it's not loud, of course, it's just for my own personal practicing purposes, but it works. That's not true. It's really kind of a piece of shit because you can't bend the strings thanks to these zither pins. As you can probably see from me really testing the bending capabilities. So the next one I build needs to have sturdier tuning machines. But thanks for watching.